What's up, guys, and welcome to a new episode of the Earbuds Podcast, the podcast where two friends talk about one album for a certain amount of time. We are your hosts, Ash and Lucas, and today we're going to be doing kind of a throwback type of episode for us, but also kind of a different format of a throwback. It's kind of like a prequel type of situation, a
It's
requel.
a requel. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's usually. Yeah, I think that sounds cool enough. We
yes.
used to do kind of first reaction episodes, and we've always kind of had this silent agreement that like if something cool is happening and it doesn't follow whatever format we're doing, like we could always switch it up.
Yeah, and
You know?
also when we were doing those first reaction episodes, they were called fresh drops was like the episode concept. And it was every Friday we were doing a review of an album that came out that day. And we were trying to just like pick an album that we were at least remotely interested in. And a
Like
lot of
some
times we
artists or that we
yeah,
heard of, or like, oh, the album cover looks cool or something.
or
That's
like, oh, I had no idea they came out with a new record. Like, oh, that's
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Let's listen to it. And I mean, I would say probably, you know, 7 out of 10 of those albums were just like we just didn't really care that much about and
It's
weren't that
it's
excited.
It's less so that like it's less so that we didn't even like the album. It's just that the albums were like fine, like 5 out of 5 albums, and we didn't really have strong feelings one way or another. And
Yeah.
that's the like, as long as we have some strong feeling towards something, we can get something interesting out of the episode. But
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
were
those
just so
episodes were
many.
usually kind of boring
It
and
just fell flat.
boring
It
for
was like,
us. Yeah.
yeah,
And the way that we were doing it too, which was kind of weird in retrospect now that I think about it, is that we would listen to each song and then pause and record what our thoughts were on that song and then move on to the next song. But what sucks is that for having a music podcast, we can't even fucking play music on this podcast. So like people would just hear our
yeah.
reactions after every song. And it was just kind of it was a weird way to listen to that type of show. And it was a really weird way to listen to an album.
Well,
So
it was just kind of born from us live streaming on Twitch,
yeah,
and we were like, well, we can just chop it up and put it on YouTube,
yeah,
and then that evolved into something else. We kind of lost track of what we were doing,
yeah. What
maybe.
we were trying to do in the first place, but we haven't done one in a long time. And Action Bronson is one of my favorite rappers, if not my
Yes.
favorite rapper, and been following him really, really closely for the last 10 years or so. Saw that he had a new album coming out. I'd heard a couple singles. I'd heard Sega and Nourish a Thug, and
Mm.
I thought that they were okay. So I didn't know that he was coming out with a whole new record until last week. And then I thought, all right, let's bring back Fest Drop. Let's do it a little differently though, where we're doing
Yeah.
this quick intro. Right. We haven't even heard the album yet. So what we're gonna do
I,
now is me and Ash are gonna press pause on our end, listen to this record. It's gonna be like half a second for you guys, and then we're gonna come back and give you our immediate first reaction right when we're done listening to the album.
that's right. And I don't think we do like choice nugs on this or give it a rating or anything on the first impression. I don't know if that's
I'm okay with doing both of those.
yeah,
If you had a song or two that were your favorites, then yeah,
just
and
like some
then
standouts. Yeah.
might as well give it a first reaction rating. Why
Yeah.
not?
Sure. Um,
All right, well,
and
let's
yeah,
listen to Johann Sebastian Baklava the Doctor by Action Bronson.
let's go.
Well, all right. We just listened to what the fuck was called?
This is Johann Sebastian Baklava, the Doctor.
By Action Bronson. All right, we literally 2 seconds ago just finished listening to this album.
Yep.
Pretty quick half hour, I gotta say. That went by pretty fucking fast for me.
Yeah, no, it's 11 songs, but it's only 30 minutes. Each song is maybe about 3 minutes. Second that single you listen to, Sega, it doesn't even get to 2 minutes. He's just in and out on that one.
Yeah, definitely the shortest on the album. I feel like what we could do really quick is maybe do like a song by song 5 second recap, and then we give our overall thoughts. Right. So it's like
All
let's
right, sure.
let's kind of give an idea of like how this album played out. So the first song is very goofy, not what I
Yeah.
expected.
uh, Throughout this whole album, same Action Bronson time, same Action Bronson channel. He's talking about
Yeah.
the same things you expect: a lot of wrestling, a lot of food, a lot of just pure braggadocio right?
Yeah, and the first track is like this really cheesy beat. Sounds like an 80s cheesy ass like cheap
Yeah,
R&B love song,
it's
and
got these like
also
sexy guitars in it, and
yeah,
wow, 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 wow.
and the hook is him acting like it's a cologne commercial from the 80s.
Yeah,
Very weird, very
I
goofy, but some
yeah,
some funny lines to start out the album, which is it's a weird way to start the album, but
it is kind of weird, but it does kind of set a precedent for this whole thing, which I mean, we'll definitely go over. There was that one line, uh, it was like someone's giving someone else head. You know what I'm talking about?
oh yeah, he was
Ah,
talking
I was
about
like the
the
person's
porn
name.
star Tiana Trump.
Yeah, in the studio doing 500 push-ups, watching. It's like, okay, dude, whatever.
Yeah, right? Like, okay. And then the next song is probably one of the weirdest beats on the record. Sega, very Action Bronson Alchemist beat.
Yeah, right. It almost sounded like the music to a puzzle video game or something.
Yeah,
It
it
was
sounds like
almost
an
like kind of
80s
contemplative.
kind of Eastern vibes to it,
Yeah,
Eastern
yeah.
European. Like, I feel like Action Bronson just takes all of Alchemist's weird ass Eastern European sampled beats that like no other rapper could imagine ever rapping over.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that Sega's the shortest track on the record because of that beat. It's like it doesn't really go anywhere, it doesn't do anything, and it's a weird one. So it's like more than a minute and a half of that is could be kind of grating.
I mean, there's most of the songs on here kind of stay in the same lane for the whole, like musically, the
It's
beat
true.
stays kind of in the same spot for the whole thing. Sometimes there'll be a hook, sometimes not, you know?
But I would say one of the most interesting beats is the next track, number three, Nourish the Thug. I thought that was
Yeah.
one of the most involved beats on the record. It doesn't change or go anywhere, which you kind of pretty much didn't enjoy about this album. And that's kind of your beef with Action Bronson beats in general, is that they don't really go anywhere, they don't build, they don't transition.
I,
And
you
it's like it's
know,
the same beat for 2.5 minutes. And that's part what I like about it because I love the music that he pulls from. So I love that 2.5 minutes of just that same groove, So like that's my style.
I think it must just be because I don't by itself really enjoy the music he's sampling, right?
Right.
And so he's got to like do something about it. A lot of these songs he'll just add a drum set or something or some
Yeah.
miscellaneous instruments to pretty much
Yeah.
a wholly just like nearly complete version of the song that's just like a
Yes.
sample that they ripped, you know?
Yeah. Which I love. I have a
And
whole playlist of songs that have become samples for Action Bronson songs, and it's some of my favorite music.
man, yeah, I don't yeah, and see that's where we're going to differ on Action Bronson, especially I mean, we'll talk about this at the end, but especially like going forward in his career and what his last few albums have looked like.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, we'll get to that when we get to overall thoughts. But I did think that Nourish the Thug had probably the most interesting, kind of loudest, most
Yeah.
complex, layered beat. Um, that really, really high, like electric organ that I wasn't really digging. I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of grating.
But they had this nice smooth bass that was like massaging my ears when I was listening to it.
Punchy bass too, but and some classic Action Bronson lines. They're gonna need four cuffs because my shoulder's buff. Only man alive to break out the Cobra clutch. It's just like, yeah, Action did a really good job of being Action on this album.
Yeah, very true.
And the next one
Yeah.
is one of my favorite tracks on the record is Hideo Nomo,
Yeah, this is the one at the very end where they just kind of let the beat ride out by itself for like a whole minute.
which is something I
Um,
love about Action Bronson. Like he let the song go on for another minute of just this really prolonged guitar solo because he knows he's like, this is sick. This beat's sick. Like, let's just let this play out. And on
yeah,
this album, more than a lot of his other stuff before, it sounds like these songs are very like organically written or sampled. Like they're sampled from bands that all have real instruments and it's not a lot of like computer generated
yeah,
sounds and stuff.
yeah,
So this kind of reminds me of the tour that I saw him on recently, that it was like all live band, all recreations of a lot of these old songs that they sample and stuff. And it seems like that was kind of his vibe on this record. And they were calling him Dr. Baklava like on that whole tour. And that was kind of like the whole idea of that tour, was to
Yeah,
change his sound a little bit to be more of a live sound. And I thought
sure.
Hideo Nomo was a great representation of what it would sound like to see Action Bronson live now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's got the horns in there. We got this like organ in the background. Very, I'd say very easy to recreate. Very good sounding thing that would be live.
Yeah, but a really interesting rap beat. There's no kick drum, there's no snare, there's no cymbals or anything. It's just like piano. It's
I,
like an organ, horns, and a bass guitar, and that's it.
yeah, there's a good amount of songs on this album that just don't have a drum. They just don't have like percussion, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the only track on the whole record on genius.com that has people commenting, "Holy shit, this beat is fire." It's definitely my favorite beat on the record. It's very, very different.
Well, if we're talking about very different, I'd like to go to the next track, Salvaje.
Salvaje.
It's got that salsa swing to it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's got kind of like it's got a salsa thing, but it's like if an R&B band made a salsa
yeah,
inspired
yeah,
song. Yeah.
and just kind of really like mellowed it out for the dance floor or something.
Yeah, I love, and I've never touched the catfish. I'm nasty in badminton. I don't eat no motherfucking McDonald's. I ate the same thing as a rhino. It's like, how do you even think of this shit? Like
It's a good fucking question.
and it's a great, very like kind of 90s Santana, supernatural era Santana type, like salsa
Sure.
Latin rock rhythm, and really cool. And I think this is one of the ones that was produced by Action. And I thought it was a great track.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was I mean, surely I must know that he's been producing his own tracks. We've like talked about his last three albums.
Yeah, the only one I know for sure, the only one that I'm very aware of was the track that he did, I think it was Tonga or Topanga or something that he did with Conway the Machine on Cocodrilo Turbo.
Mm.
And it was my least favorite beat on the record. So when we heard that, I was a little like, I guess Action Bronson's not great. But Action produced this, he produced Salvaje and he produced Shadow Realm. Both very cool beats.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Salvaje was cool. I liked it a lot. Great rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Hogan was next. Mayhem Loren, fucking just proving it once again. He's one of the best out there right now. I fucking love all his features that he's ever done on Action Bronson stuff, and
Yeah.
Hogan did not disappoint.
No, yeah. I loved his verse. It's a kind of a breath of fresh air to hear a different flow.
Yeah,
You know, and I don't know, it's just kind of a jammy song with big horns in it. Always down.
yeah. It felt like a 70s like detective noir show,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a theme
just
song for it.
this whole album like takes place between like the 60s and the 70s, you know?
Yes, lots of 60s and 70s vibes, and like getting into the early 80s with some of the more kind of R&B-ish stuff that they sampled in this. But I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
this was some of the best lyrical work on the album also, and I think a big part of that is because Mayhem did so well in his verse that I feel like Action
Yeah.
brought it a little bit more on his verse. You know what I mean?
He had to actually write stuff down instead of like probably freestyling it.
Yeah, yeah, just talking about putting you in the shark fin soup to kill you or something. Another thing too that we haven't mentioned yet, I feel like one of the things I noticed that was most different in the lyrics of this, because like we said, like Actions was doing really good at being Action Bronson on this record, but also
Yeah.
he brought back a lot of that kind of more gun gangster hood street stuff into the lyrics on this record that hasn't been really present in his last few albums.
I
And
do you,
I think it was a good idea.
I wonder if he was like trying to match the like certainly the movies he's watching, like the mafia movies or the noir stuff or like the spy movies or whatever, and he's trying to match that like criminal mindset,
Yeah.
I guess, you know?
More, I mean, he always talked shit, right? He always talked to shit. He always said
Yeah.
like we were saying, like I'll put you in the fish soup or whatever. But in this one, there was more direct, like talking about reloading a gun and putting a motherfucker down and putting a rug over someone's a fucking gravesite, and doing all this like kind of really hard, really direct kind of hood street shit that I thought was a good change in some of his lyrics, because all it did was just give him another avenue of wordplay and imagery and sounding cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
sure.
thought it was a nice, like, it's good. I feel like it's good that he brought that shit back, because I think it helped a lot with his lyrics on this. It made it feel a little fresher because he hadn't done that in a while.
Well, yeah, because I don't know, action is action, and he's gonna rap about what he raps about. It's just nice to hear some new shit, uh, especially when someone like Mayhem is on the track, or when he's just talking about, I don't know, different shit.
Yeah, and Mayhem's on the next track also, Citrus Wahoo, which I didn't really
Yeah,
like that much. It's my least favorite on the record.
yeah, it's kind of a loungy vibe. It was kind of, I don't know, it's off kilter in an interesting way, but not so much that I super am into it, I guess.
The beat sounds like something that SpongeBob would have rapped over to me.
But Action took that chance from SpongeBob. He said it's my fucking beat.
Yeah, I guess so. It sounds like a Krusty Krab ass beat, but Compressor had a cool kind of 80s R&B style backing track, kind of back to that, and we were both talking about how Larry June was actually on Compressor, the next track, and
Yeah.
he was so fucking chill in his delivery that we were both like almost falling asleep during his
I,
verse.
nothing bad about his verse or anything, but he is the slowest rapper I've ever heard. And
Just
I
like kind of talking like this, just like really, really low and slow and
like
like
almost fallen behind, and you wonder if he's gonna make it to the next beat, but he
it's like,
does, and it's like damn, dude, he's on like ketamine or something.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, you can hear the 50 milligrams of edibles like hitting him in
In
the
that
middle of the
moment,
verse,
yeah.
like, yeah, it was kind of a bit much, but really cool beat. Really like that beat a lot of Compressor.
Yeah, I like it. But I was also really into NBA Leather on NBC.
I thought that was a great song. Another really interesting beat. It kind of reminded me of I got a brand new car. I got
Oh
a
yeah,
jazz guitar. A little bit.
sure, yeah.
That kind of 70s piano rock
And they kind
driven
of have
stuff
those
with a
like,
harmonica going the whole time.
yeah, and they have those
Yeah.
hits like the bum bum bum.
Yeah, a
Uh,
little more dynamics than some of the other
yeah,
backing tracks.
I don't know. It's so weird. It's so bouncy, and it's like if Action didn't do it, I would have no idea how someone would rap on this.
Right,
You
I
know.
know. Yeah.
And went. Alchemist showed that it is difficult to rap on this.
Dude, worst
You know.
feature on the album,
Eh,
Alchemist. Surprising. I know Alchemist is a good rapper, and that was just not his best work. That
I,
wasn't a good feature.
they can't all be bangers.
They can't all be bangers, but I think the a line on NBA Leather on NBC is pretty a perfect encapsulation of Action Bronson, and I think it's one of the first lines on his verse. He said, "I lead the league in talking about the same German machine, 15 years earning its key." And it's like, yeah, he has spent the last 15 years rapping about the same shit, and it's been paying off for 15 fucking years. And it's like
Yeah.
he's even calling it out on this song, and I think it's genius, and I think it's kind of meta, and maybe a commentary to maybe some people. I don't know if anyone was giving him shit about always rapping about the same thing, but he's just like, watch, I'm gonna do it again for another 30 minutes and people are gonna love it.
You know what? I'm gonna be one of those fucking people.
I
I
know.
we're gonna have to talk at the end of this, and it's you might not like what I have to say.
All right, well, just to wrap it up, Shadow Realm, really, really interesting song, using a 60s Italian American kind of love ballad. And he's literally just
Yeah.
rapping over the music. He didn't add a beat to it or anything. That's another Action Bronson produced song. And I thought another great example of Action proving that he can literally rap over anything.
Yeah, it's just a choir and like a mandolin, maybe some strings, and it's
Yeah.
just I don't know how you make use of that space, but Action Bronson can always do it, and
And he did a great job. I honestly think he did a great job. It's not one of those, and it's like, and it was good. It was like, no, it was fucking great.
yeah, he killed it. I don't
Yeah.
know, you know.
And Doctor closing track, just a great chill Action Bronson closing track to the record, using another
Yeah,
Eastern
it's
European kind of inspired music.
anything that has that stand-up bass just always sounds so nice to me.
Yeah, I mean, half of his stuff sounds like Albanian, love songs from the 70s. It's like he loves using this Eastern European, very Greek sounding, very Russian sounding, very
Yeah.
Cyrillic. Is that like
I,
that?
I don't know what that word means,
Just think
but
of like any 1970s Russian gangster movie, and you're gonna get 90% of Action Bronson's best beats.
yeah,
And
sure.
and I love it. And Doctor was a great closer. Just another great Action Bronson song, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like how it ended. I like that last thing he did. He never really he'll always like do the improv like, uh, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that hurt. But he'll never like double up on his voice, you know?
Right.
So it's just interesting to hear like, oh, I don't think I've heard him do that very often.
He used to on his first couple albums, and I thought it was not. I never liked the sound. That's why I don't listen to rare done or well done or something. His first,
Uh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
I think
it
it's well done. I don't listen to it that much, and he kind of dropped it after that. So I really like the single vocal take, the little ad libs in the background. He kind of overdid it with the ad libs for in my taste on this record. Like after every line, there was almost a little
I
response to something, and it got a little bit much for me.
Yeah, it was literally like every line he's doing something. The intro of every song is always like, the
Yeah,
king. Yeah, which is like, I don't know, nothing new. But
yeah.
when you hear it like 7 times in a row, it gets a little silly.
It gets a little silly, and unfortunately, right now we can hear a leaf blower coming out through your microphone, but
Oh, is that?
all
Damn it. Okay, give me a second.
right, we're almost done.
Told you not to do this in my fucking time.
We're almost done. You won't have to have the window open for long.
Sorry, this is bullshit. I rented out this whole apartment for this episode, and they have their fucking lawnmower people here anyway. It's bullshit, and someone's getting fired. Uh, so just watch out for that.
Jesus. Yeah.
I run
Karen.
a tight
Ash
ship.
turned into a Karen real fucking quick.
I Hey, I just want the services that I pay for.
Are you
Okay?
supposed to be here? Are you
Are you
supposed to be here?
are you supposed to be here? I haven't seen you around here before.
What's your name?
Oh my god.
Where
And
did you park?
which space is yours? Oh,
Who
well, yeah, well, that's not your space.
who
So,
hired you? Who hired you?
it's really tough. There are times when I'm at my lowest, and what I want to see is just like, I don't know, like someone who's being a shithead getting like direct karma,
Oh yeah, instant
like
karma.
instant karma. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great subreddit.
It's not something I indulge in too often because I don't want to be like too mean about shit.
I
But
know.
like sometimes you need it. Sometimes you feel low and you just want to watch someone else like get, I don't
I'm
know.
trying really hard these days to be more accepting and less pissy about everything, but it is what it is. Anyway, what did you not accept about this album? Because you're putting out some fucking
I
some
here's here
breadcrumbs.
I think you and I kind of agree. A lot of these tracks are seem like it's this main sample of music. They add maybe one or two instruments on top of it, maybe a drum beat on top of it. But for the most part, it's pretty we use this sample and this is the main thing that
Mhm.
this track is and it's action rapping over it. I guess I just wish they were it's enough to find an interesting sample, but I would rather they do something cool with it. I I don't know. Like it's enough for you that you're hearing this music and you're enjoying it. You love Action Bronson, you love his voice, you love all the everything he talks about and the way he does it. It's very cool. But I don't know. I feel like I want a little more, especially from Action in this stage of his fucking music career. Like it I don't know. it's one thing to kick back and rest on your laurels and just like crank out an album every once in a while, but it just feels like he's been, I don't know, lately the music has been so, has such a loss of direction, or like a loss of like, are we going to develop shit? Is this just going to be the thing he does for the rest of his career?
That's always been his thing, though. So why expect anything different?
I don't know, man. Like,
He's
it
made a
goes to show
career
that I'm
off of
not a
doing
fan.
this. Yeah, I think you're just not as much of a fan because I think this is just Action Bronson's thing. Like this is his thing. This is what he does, and it's what he does best. So he's not going to change it up. I think some of your favorite stuff of his is from that Sob Stories EP, right?
Um, it's been so long since I've listened to that. I would honestly say most of the stuff I like is probably Blue Chip 7000 and
Yeah, Blue Chips
Mr.
is
Mr. Wonderful.
yeah. I think Mr. Wonderful is the last one that he wrote his best material, like lyrically. And I think that's where he kind of cemented his thing was on Mr.
Sure.
Wonderful. So since then, he's just been in the pocket of writing about all the same shit. But I think what he's done throughout his career is like he might be, let's say, not a one trick pony. Maybe he's like a three trick pony when it comes to lyrics, right? He's really good at those three subjects or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I think what he's done and what he's getting better at, which is I think this album is a great example of, he's gotten more and more interesting music to place his thing that he does on top of, and I think that's what he has, how he has evolved in his career because Mr. Wonderful was very a very pop hip hop record for him. Like music that's really catchy and fun, and it's still
Yeah.
a great Action Bronson record, but it's obviously like it feels like a major record label release. And then since
Yeah.
then, he's
For
just
sure.
gotten weirder and weirder with his music. And I think Cocodrillo Turbo was kind of the apex of like, okay, I'm getting really fucking weird now. And he found, I think what this album has done is taken Cocodrillo and Only for Dolphins, his two weirdest records that
Yeah.
he's done, and combined it with like Blue Chip 7000 and Lamb Over Rice, where they take some of the weird and they take some of the really classic Eastern European, fucking Greek, Russian sounding stuff, and they just kind of threw both onto the same record in very tasteful ways. I think this album was done very tastefully. A lot of the music and a lot of the production, I think, is other than Citrus Wahoo, I think a lot of this album is like very tastefully done. But I completely understand. I'm a huge Action fan. I just want Action Bronson to be Action Bronson. So
Yeah.
he was on this record. He was fucking action to a 10, but also
I
I think he like brought it a little bit more with his wordplay. It sounded like he tried much harder than he did on Cocodrillo Turbo, in my opinion. And in my opinion, this is his best material since Blue Chip 7000.
Wow. That's a mighty claim. I mean, maybe it's just something like if Action Bronson is a ham sandwich and all his albums are like different seasonings on the same ham sandwich, I'm
Mhm.
just sick of ham.
Yeah, I
Like it
think
might just, that
that's
just
what it
might be
is.
it. Is like
Yeah.
the it's kind of the same stuff, and I like earlier versions of him doing it.
Yeah.
And you look forward to every song and every record. You're I was trying to pay attention to the lyrics and stuff, but you obviously are like so much more honed in on that stuff as well.
There's so many references too. He's referencing things that you're not into, that you don't care
I mean,
about,
it's
that you
nice
don't even
to,
know about, which is not a bad thing, but it's just things that you don't know about.
I as my wrestling prowess has grown, I've slowly started to understand more and more of his references, which is an
Right.
interesting like development in my life.
What I
But
was
it's,
telling you, like he referenced Cyborg, that fucking random ass Jean Claude Van Damme movie,
yeah,
and I was like, oh
yeah.
shit, I just watched that the other day, like for the first time, and I'm like, he's what are the chances that he's talking about it? I'm like, actually, pretty good fucking chance that
Yeah.
Action Bronson's going to talk about a random Jean Claude movie that I happen to watch. Like we're just so he has my fucking he's got my goat on so many topics and pop culture things
I
that I'm super fucking into.
y'all are like lost twins.
I feel
Yeah,
like a
I
lot of
feel
people
like
feel that way. A lot of people feel like Action is a rapper for them because he's into obscure 80s action movies and cars and
man.
random like shit that a lot of rappers might like consider nerdy to fucking rap about and talk about. And Action is so unapologetically himself that I
Yeah.
think I'm so drawn to him. And I genuinely do think this is some of the best music that he's picked for his albums, like ever since Blue Chips. And honestly, I think Lamb Over Rice has some of my favorite beats of his on any of his records, and that's like a 7-song EP.
Mm.
Blue Chips is like his last really great album, in my opinion. And then you had Only for Dolphins and White Bronco, and you had Cocodrillo Turbo, and
Yeah.
even I was starting to feel a little fatigued by Cocodrillo Turbo. I was like, oh man, like
Yeah.
it felt like he was just kind of like you said, resting on his laurels. This felt more authentic action. If he felt like it felt like he was having fun. It felt like
Sure. Yeah.
he really enjoyed everything that he was rapping over, and he even produced even more tracks on this. And I think it's some of his best lyrical work also since Blue Chips 7,000. So I like this album a lot. Like this was one of the I have not listened to Cocodrillo Toro like driving around. I have not listened to Only for Dolphins.
Yeah.
I don't listen to White Bronco. I listen to Blue Chip 7,000, Mr. Wonderful, and Lamb Over Rice. Those are like the three albums by him that I just are constant rotation. This is going to be
This is going
right
in
in the
constant.
mix.
Well, oh, yeah, man. I mean, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah,
I, yeah. I mean, it's a good album. You know, it's if you're a fan of Action Bronson, you're gonna love it. Obviously, he's
yeah,
still at the top of his game when he's rapping. His lines are fun. I think they've just kind of glazed over on me. I wish that the his weirdness didn't stop at picking a sample. I wish it
yeah,
continued on from then. I wish he
yeah.
would do. I don't know. I guess I might be just asking more than anyone even wants of a
You know what's
rapper I'm not super into.
I think that's the thing is like you're asking Action to not be Action, which is fine. But I what I do find interesting is Action Bronson lives a lot of life, and he seems to rap about the same stuff all the time. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you literally travel the world. Like you see
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many things that so many people don't see, but you're just going to talk about focaccia. You know, like something I can get at the bakery down the
I
street for me. Like I don't have to go to Naples
I
to
almost
get
wonder
focaccia, you know.
if that's a conscious decision to like if he still wants to seem kind of like an everyman New Yorker, you know, instead of a dude who travels to the best like culinary places in the world and
And meets
uh
some of the most interesting people in the world and
yeah.
has worked with some of the most interesting producers of things that you wouldn't think can become artisan like olive oil and beer
Sure.
and you
I
know like he's worked and all the things that he does all kind of surround his interests anyway, but it's like yeah, I agree, I kind of do agree where it's like why how come you're not able to talk about more obscure things or write more songs about your experiences. Like I kind of wish that he would write his music when he was taking Fuck That's Delicious on the road. Like he was going to be in France for the next
sure.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Write 2 songs while you're in France, you know, and
Yeah, it's
get a French beat and work with a French producer
it
and write
almost
about the last 5 things that you did. And I think it would probably be more original and fresh to you than a lot of the stuff that he writes about.
maybe, you know, I don't know. He also in his references like he's not wrestling, he's not rapping about new wrestling shit.
No, he's
It's
roughing
all
out the
still
Cobra
like
Clutch.
it's all still Jake the Snake
Yeah, Hulk
and shit.
Hogan.
Yeah, yeah, and it's when he references food, it's always like I don't know, it's always like well, I won't say it's always anything because he
I
does
mean,
have a pretty wide palette on
he has a
that
pretty
shit.
wide palette, but also on this record, he mentioned just like meats and cheeses several times.
Yeah,
Like literally
right.
just said meats and cheeses. It's just like now he's not even saying fucking, you know, Gruyere cheese or even a more fucking
Slim
obscure one.
beyond
He's
you
just
lonely.
yeah. I mean, he said like sold him like school genie or something like that, and it's just like okay, that's just like a random Italian pasta. I think you know. It's like, but I love
I
it.
don't know.
I love it.
Dude, and I'm glad you do. Uh
I love that for you.
I love that for you, and that's great
Yeah.
for you. But what the fuck am I supposed to do over here?
So what if you were to rate it? Your first reaction, first initial
My
rating.
first reaction, I like the music. I wish it went further. He knows that he's not great at hooks.
His hooks have never been good.
And he kind of shows.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give this one a solid. I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay. I
It's
like it.
it's interesting. Like I would listen to this over just like a generic, I don't know, other rap album. It's interesting. He is a master of rapping on shit that no one should be rapping on.
Yeah, this was a clinic of
Yeah,
that. He
yeah,
put on
pretty
a clinic on
much.
this record. It was really cool.
And it's definitely a vibe. It is like this album is very much its own vibe. That you can
Yeah.
utilize at parties and shit.
Yeah, this is a great driving around stoned, just like
Yeah,
running.
yeah.
Like if I'm
Yeah,
running errands and I'm
people
just
would
gonna
people who listen to this podcast might think that's like your favorite thing in the world to do is drive around stoned and listen to
have y'all
music.
picked that up yet? That I love listening to music high in my car.
Driving down the Sunset Strip.
That's right, dude. Nothing but palm trees and booty
Yeah,
everywhere.
dude.
I'm gonna give this I want to give it like between a 7.5 and an 8. I think I'm gonna give it like a 7.8. Right in the middle
Okay.
there. Really good. It might honestly go higher the more I
I
listen to it.
I was gonna ask, do you think are you gonna enjoy it more as you listen?
I think so. I think it's
Okay.
it's one that's going to be on rotation a lot. I've been excited to listen to this record, and it didn't disappoint me at all. If anything, I was impressed with parts of it. So 7.8. I think I'm being conservative, but it's kind of like I don't want to get too excited. I genuinely do think that this is magnitudes better than Only for Dolphins and Cocodrillo Turbo. Like I think this is
Mm,
miles ahead of that stuff. So it's exciting. It's
interesting.
some of the best stuff I've heard from him in the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah, 7.8. I think, and it'll probably become a solid 8 point something over time.
Okay, dude. Hell yeah. I wonder if have we not done an Action Bronson tier list yet? Have we
No, we
done that?
haven't. No,
I that might be that.
that'd
I
be a
mean,
good one. That'd be a good
we'll
one.
see. We'll keep that in the back pocket whenever we need some more action in our lives.
Yeah, like I don't know. We've already talked about 4 of his records or something on this show.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you guys for listening. What do you guys think of the new Action record, man? Let us know on YouTube or fucking Spotify. Leave a comment wherever, tell your friends about it. And thanks for listening. I think the next episode that we come out with, we're going to be talking about Astronoid. I think we finally need to put out that episode, but I wanted this one to take priority. So this one's going to come out as soon as possible. Thanks for listening, guys. Ash, this was good.
Lucas, this was good.
A freaking bye.
A freaking bye.